Welcome back. It's Business 360 and my name is Blyden Ukem. And now let's talk about Nigeria's inflation rate reaching the highest since 1996. Nigeria's headline inflation rate accelerated to a 17th straight month at a price level of 33.95% in May 2024 from 33.69% in the prior month, marking the highest reading since March 1996. The latest figures came amid a further rise in fuel prices after the government removed subsidies and currency weakness. Food inflation, which accounts for the bulk of Nigeria's inflation basket, soared to a record high of 40.66% in May, compared to April's reading of 40.53%, boosted by rises in potatoes, fish and meats. This has led to many concerns around Nigeria as prices are going higher and higher and higher, and we'll see the best we can how to x-ray the fine details in this, looking at the questions being asked. What is the way forward for Nigeria amid heightened prices of commodities? My guest joins the show this morning, Dr. Aliyu Illias. Let's look at the intensity of this. The wonders that's happened within the Nigerian sector and why prices are going higher and higher. Dr. Aliyu Illias, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining the conversation this particular morning. Well, looking at Nigeria's state of economy and inflation in the country, it's getting very difficult at this moment for many people, and the price getting so high and high. 33.95% compared to April's number, which was at 33.69%, food inflation getting even higher. The question in the lips of many Nigerians or many people who hear about inflation would be, what is this all about? What does it indicate? And where is it taking Nigerians to?
Right. Thank you for having me. It simply means that it has eroded the purchasing power of Nigerians. And as you know, it's quite a structural problem which we have been having over time. It's not something that happens today, or like rightly mentioned, since 1996, we have not had it like this, that will have this level of inflation, but it's function of government policy. So if I may say, I think the reform of Tinubu administration has given us such an experience, because the structural problem has not been solved, such as insecurity, such as purchasing power. And you also agree with me that our supply chain is also giving us a serious problem.
Well, you've talked about supply chain giving us a serious problem, but many people would look at from the indices we have, 33.95% previously at 33.69% is getting higher. A 17th consecutive time inflation data or inflation rate is going higher. And the question in the lips of many people would be, is there a possibility of a slowdown in terms of heightened rates of commodities?
Right. I think there's possibility, but government needs to do their part. And the first part is that you agree with me that the most problem we have is first subsidy removal, because it brings about a lot of hardship. But having removed first subsidy for the past 1 year, CNG is not operational up till now. So for me, I think it's premature to bring about those policies, because if you do not have solution for Nigerians, why do you remove first subsidy? So having removed it, the first thing is that our CNG need to be operational. They need to open it up. Because you say you are having CNG, I can tell you 2% of Nigeria are not on CNG. So how?
Well, many questions to be asked there, but when it has to do with inflation data, one of the biggest drivers of inflation data has been the prices of housing and utility, clothing and footwears and transportation, attributing the most in recent times in the inflation basket, and partly also electricity tariffs and fuel are getting higher and higher. Meanwhile, the annual core inflation rate in Nigeria, excluding farm produce and energy, have soared to new record peak of 27.04%. Dr. Aliyu, if you're still there, and now let's look at the state of electricity in the country. It's been a major contributor to inflation in the country. Our government has been trying the best they can with tariffs and taxes here and there. And many begin to wonder when this will end. But the question I want you to look at is, when you look at all these indicators, electricity, farm produce, and all of it now, what's a possible solution around this for Nigerians?
Right, I think government has withdrawn back the hike in electricity.
It's still difficult to get that connection there. But on a monthly basis, consumer prices rose by 2.14% in May and at least in 6 months, easing from a 2.29% gain in April. And many concerns for many Nigerians because things are quite difficult. Dr. Aliyu, you're there.
Yes, please. I'm here.
All right, so you were talking about electricity tariffs and the concerns around it and inflation being quite high in the country. And I ask you, what are the possibilities of any change anytime soon?
Right. I think the best thing has happened already because the National Assembly has actually put it in a concurrent list where every state can now have their own power generation company. Because it's a good one. I saw that Southwest governors have already had a meeting about that. NDC is trying to have their own. A place like Illias, like Ogba in Ikeja, like Ariara Market, like Nnewi, they can have their own generation of power, and that will solve the problem. But we need government to give them incentive that if you are able to get off grid, we'll support you with 5%, we give you this, we give you that. That would have helped. So government should bring about incentive that will solve the problem.
All right, government should bring about incentive that will solve the problem, especially from electricity point of view. So let me have your take. Are you an economist and you have lots of ideas around this, what the problem has been for Nigeria regarding inflation? And one of your points has always been about purchasing power, the very fact that Naira cannot buy so much any longer based on heightened inflation rate. So the question I want to pose to you is this now. When you look at all the indices, are we expecting inflation to continue going higher in the country? The next month, May's result has come out. In June, it should be even higher, considering the fact that inflation rate in Nigeria has gone up for a 17th consecutive month.
Right. I think the major problem of inflation is food-driven inflation, which is cost push. So if you look at the food inflation, it's about 40.66%. That simply means that we are not taking care of it. So the first thing is that government should work on supply chain because it's not to buy the food. There's a food in Bauchi. But if you buy food in Bauchi, to transport it down to Lagos or to Abuja, you have to pay humongous transportation. People that sell tomatoes in the market, they will tell you that the problem is not even buying tomato from source, the transportation of that tomato, and that's why we can buy a 4 pieces of tomato at 1,000 naira. So the fact just meant government needs to do more in terms of the commodities by making sure that farmers are encouraged, also transportation are tamed. Maybe our trucks that take this produce to other places should be running on CNG trucks. If we can achieve that, yes. But if we still go on this PMS, I think we are here to continue to have such problem for a long time. So we must do all-round farming, season farming. We must also work on storage of farm produce. We must also, for me, if you ask me, I think it's time government should open border. Because you cannot say you won't open border and we keep suffering. If you don't have food to consume in Nigeria, please open border and let people buy where they want to buy. It would even affect the price. There will be competition. But now there is no competition. We only wait for our farmers, and farmers cannot go to the farm because of insecurity. So there's a lot of problems. So government must be intentional to solve the problem.
Well, you've made your point. Government must be intentional to solve the problem. Dr. Aliyu, thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.